Hello guys, it's the Unsmooth Criminal, and this is the last video I'm recording of the day, and I've been wondering, obviously I've been wondering this, but I've been wondering if you guys want to see me do my rendition of what if Deku had a system quirk. Obviously people have done the what if Deku has the system from solo leveling, has a job-based system. I've seen that one, and has a game style system. And I'm going to do a part of it today, and I want to know if you guys want me to continue it. So if this gets 20 likes, that's the max I've gotten. Well, the max I've gotten is 25 likes. If this video gets 20 likes, and I see that it got 20 likes or 200 views within the first 24 hours, and I don't know why I would get 200 views in the first 24 hours. I don't even have 200 subscribers. I will continue this one. But I would like your guys' support and input on these. And yeah, so we start off at Izuku when he's 3. And he goes to the Quirk doctor. In this AU, all the Quirk doctors have a special machine that they must come in when they turn 3, and then they can test your blood to see if you have a Quirk gene. But once you hit 4, if your Quirk doesn't manifest, you go in and they can test what your Quirk is. So Izuku goes in and they test his DNA, and they see that he does not have a complete Quirk gene. And all these researchers are stumped by this, and they're like, what is going on with him? Because everybody they have tested has either had a complete Quirk gene or didn't have a Quirk gene at all. And then they're like, okay, can we take some DNA from other parts of the body? And Inko, wondering what their issue is, says sure. So they bring Izuku in for some slight cutting and scraping, and they take some of his bone. And this isn't hurting Izuku because they numb the areas. They take a little bit of his skin, some of his muscle, just enough to where it doesn't affect the part of the body that they've cut. And they test all of this, and they see one part has a complete one part doesn't have one, and then another part has a half of one. And they're just confused. They're like, when he turns 3.5, please have him come in and we'll do the same test. Because right now it looks like he does have a quirk, but we don't know for certain. Because if we test his blood, he has half a quirk gene. If we test his bone, he has a quirk gene. But if we test his skin, he doesn't have a quirk gene. And Inko agrees and signs a waiver that says every month that he's going to come in and get tested. All the way up till his 4th birthday, he's been going in once a month to get tested. And slowly, it's the bone marrow, I've not been saying that right. His bone marrow had it, but slowly his bone marrow has gone to where it doesn't have a quirk gene, and his skin had the quirk gene. So his skin got the quirk gene, his muscles got the quirk gene, all of his organs and bloods got the quirk gene, but his bone marrow doesn't. And they're just completely stumped by this. This should be biologically impossible. And he goes in one more time before his birthday and the day of his birth. And they still see this, and they're like, what the hell is going on with you? And they say, we're done for the day, our tests are done. And the doctor that's gotten to know Izuku knows Izuku's birthday is tomorrow and says his happy early birthday and you may go home. Izuku says thank you. No, female. Female Deku. It's female. I'm Izumi. Female Deku. Izumi. She says thank you and that it was a pleasure meeting and talking with him. And he goes, it was the same for him talking to her because she is above average intelligence for her age group and that she has a long life ahead of her. But when it hits midnight, Izumi wakes up. And she doesn't know why, but she can't fall asleep. Then she looks at her bed and is like, I want to fall asleep for 6 hours. And she lays her head down. 6 hours later, she wakes up and she's like, the hell's going on? And her mother walks in the room. Izumi, you gotta get up. And she sees that she's up and she goes, oh, good, you're up. Izumi says, yeah, but I don't know why, but I don't feel tired at all. And her mom goes, oh, you must have just gotten a full night's sleep. And Izumi goes, maybe. That must have been just a weird dream last night. Her mom goes, what do you mean a weird dream? Izumi tells her what happened and she goes, weird. So they brush it off and then later that day, Izumi goes to school and at a random point during the school day, Izumi's reading a book and all of a sudden a blue screen flashes in front of her face. System unlocked. Player Izumi Midoriya. Age 4. Starting class. And then it lists class for her to pick from. Subclass. Then it lists classes for her to pick from. Primary weaponry. Then it says is weaponry unlocked when class chosen. And Izumi was like, okay, I'm going to look up what these classes do, or look up what these do and talk to my mother about this. So, after school, with the screen still to the north, the screen is north facing, or she has to face north to see it. And that's only when it's prompting her, she sees it. But when it's not prompting her, it's going to be in a little like icon that's to the north. And if she presses it with a finger and holds it for like a few seconds, it shows up. But back on, so she gets home and before her mother can ask how her day was, she runs to her room and locks the door and says, I'm going to be doing some research. I'll be out in an hour or two. 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 15 seconds later, Izumi runs out, Mom, I got my quirk! And she goes, what? That's good! And she goes, yeah! Don't know what to call it, but I see a status screen of sorts. And her mom, who in this timeline is a professional game developer and gamer, goes, what? You have a stat screen? Excuse me? And she goes, yeah. And her mom goes, Izumi, what does it look like? And she says it looks like a blue board that says my name, age, race, intelligence, strength. And while Izumi's describing this, Inko is looking more and more terrified. And she looks at Izumi and says, okay, I want you to follow my instructions very clearly. I don't know if this will work, but I want you to follow my instructions very clearly. I want you to say party invite Inko Midoriya. And Izumi says this in Inko's vision. She sees a blue flash and then looks around, and when she looks to the north, the same way Izumi's facing, she sees a screen that says, party invites, do you accept or decline? And Inko faints. And Izumi catches her with her slightly average, or slightly below average strength. And Izumi goes, Mom? A few minutes after, Inko finally wakes up and she says, Izumi, have you ever played a video game? And Izumi goes, yeah, that Temple Run game. And she goes, no. A video game. Not a MOBA, which is a mobile game. A video game. Izumi goes, no. Isn't that what you do at work? And she goes, yes, I do that for work. So I need to introduce you to a certain game that has a lot of different character customizations. So she goes to her computer and types in D&D Online. And she says this is a role-playing game where you have to play as a character and you play with other people. And since most people can't get together that are fans of this game, they made a website that they can play with game masters and other players all around the world. And her mom gets Izumi addicted to this. So the next 6 years, there's a random girl known as Shadow Ember running around the D&D world being the most overpowered OP monk fighter you could probably think of. And her favorite weapons are like Wolverine claws. So, whenever someone sees the name Shadowfire in the chat show up, they go, yeah, guys, I think you're gonna be ready for a boss fight. You're gonna have to get ready for a boss fight soon. Because they have a Dark Souls-esque implement to where random players can join to invade stories and attack and see what their defense and other stuff rolls. So Izumi used the monk fighter class in the game and in real life. She chose monk as her main class and brawler as her secondary class. So she's a monk fighter in real life and in the game. So she's currently working on mind and body for herself and her character. And her character is mainly based on the ability to get hit as hard as possible and still survive. She's not a tank, she's a brawler, so the harder she gets hit, the more damage she does. And that equates into the gear that she gets from her system. Every time she has a birthday, she gets a present from the system which completes her set. And it's now, she's 10 and she goes on and she sees a link to a D&D championship game. And it says reward. And then her status screen pops up in front of her computer screen, says winning reward, 3 presents. And then it says on the games on the screen for the computer, winning reward $1 million USD. And she sees this and like, I don't want the money, I want the quirk rewards, because her quirk creates items too. And she joins it, and I think I said Midnight Fire? Not Midnight Fire. Shadowfire. She joins it as Shadowfire, and she plays it, and she has her mom's face as her sponsor. So her mom gets the money, and everybody's like, who is this character? Because every time they have a tournament, they have a 1v1 section, a boss fight section, and a mob clearing section, and Izumi gets first place in all of them. And they're like, who is this character? So she gets the 3 rewards from her system and the $1 million reward from the game. And it said that each first place gets $1 million. But they counted Izumi only once and then gave $750,000 to the second place instead of the $500,000 that they were originally going to give. Because Izumi won in all 3 sections. And the only one who knows that she's Shadowfire is Bakugo. Bakugo has been trying to get her off of that and get outside because of her quirk being really cool, and he wants to see how it works. But she goes, nah, I have a tournament, or I'm going to go kill some more noobs, or say some, or just make up an excuse to go back onto the games. And she is still level 1. And then Bakugo says, okay, fine. This is when they're 11. Okay, fine. You fight me, and if you win, and that's when I admit defeat, you get to do whatever you want till we are 15. Then I'll fight you again. And if I win, you have to stop playing that game till we're 15. And she goes, sure. And while she's fighting and getting hit and then fighting and hitting him, she's gaining experience. And she sees this and is like, woo! I can level up my stats without getting just new items. So she says, rule change. We're going to fight 1 time every day till we're 16. And he goes, what? And then gets sucked in the face, and she wins because he gets knocked out. And the next day, he's like, go fine, play your game. And she goes, nope, we fight here and now. And he goes, wait, what? You never wanted to fight. And she goes, I want to fight now. And in real life, she's using some gloves that look like UFC boxing gloves, and they're padded so they don't hurt Bakugo as much as they should. So while she's fighting him, she sends him a party invite. Or before she starts fighting him the second time, she sends him a party invite and says, join what I just sent you. And he goes, what did you just send me? He sees a blue flash and then is like, what the hell was that? And then he finally turns around and sees the status screen and is like, what the hell? And she goes, that's part of my quirk. Join it. And he goes, how do I join it? And she goes, just press the accept button. So he presses the button that says accept, and it says his status, Bakugo Katsuki, level 3. Job. You guys list down a name for his job. Class, Brawler. Subclass, Tank. No, not Tank. Assassin. Because he does high damage, but has very little defense. Monks do defense, and Brawlers do attack. So he has Brawler Assassin. He doesn't sneak around, though. So he says, what the hell is a Brawler Assassin? And Izumi goes, holy crap, you're just straight damage, aren't you? And he goes, what do you mean? And she explains to him what she is, a monk fighter of someone who's supposed to get hit and then hit back. And she explains it as, I'm supposed to counter the attacks that someone throws at me, and you are just supposed to hit them once and they die. And he goes, what? And she gets him on to the D&D game, and she's like, okay, we got to play one round, and you must play your brawler assassin, and I'll play my monk fighter, and you'll see what we do best. And they play one game, or they play a game with that, and he's like, oh, that makes sense. And then he clicks the leave party, and the screen stays in front of him, and he's like, how long does your quirk work for? And she goes, the screen never turns off. And he goes, does that mean I have your quirk too now? And she goes, oh, hell no. My quirk makes me level up. You're max level at 3. He goes, what do you mean I'm max at 3? And she goes, the more you train your body in quirk, the higher level you are going to be. You can't allocate stats. You can't level up via fights. I can. You have to train like a normal person to show your stats there, but I don't. And he goes, oh, okay, so I still can grow, but I can't grow like you can. And she goes, nope. So that's why I say fight me every day. He goes, fine. 2 years later. It's like, this is damn slow. He goes, no, duh, we've been fighting like this every day. She goes, no, I don't get any experience from fighting you anymore. And he goes, what do you mean? She goes, the last fight we had, I got 0 experience for knocking you out. And he goes, so? She goes, I've been getting 1 experience for every time I knock you out. This last time is different because I got no experience now. It's pissing me off. And he goes, what level are you? And she goes, I'm level 10. And he goes, the hell? I'm only level 4. And she asks, what is your damage stat and what is your health stat? And he goes, my health stat is at 10 and my damage stat is at 30. And she goes, exactly. My health stat is at 40 and my damage stat is at 10. And he goes, what the hell? And she goes, I also have armor on. And he goes, wait, you have armor? And she goes, yeah. Besides my UFC gloves, which are my training gauntlets. And oops, that's been on there for a while. Sorry about the ad. And she says these UFC training gauntlets are special, and if I'm wearing them, they're half my body weight. But if you're wearing them, they're just normal light UFC gloves. And then I have armor on, and she pulls off her hair pins and sets them on the ground, and they shift into full-on armor. And he sees a chest plate. He sees boots. He sees gauntlets. He sees a helmet. And he's like, holy crap. And she goes, oh yeah, this is going to be my hero costume, by the way. And he goes, what? And she goes, yeah, I haven't been using this while we've been fighting, by the way. He goes, so that's why I can still hurt you. And she goes, yeah. And so she puts on the armor, she puts it in her hair, and then puts it on by letting it show, and says, now try to hurt me. So he puts his explosion right in her face and pops an explosion and looks, and no damage. She's like, why the hell did you do it on my face? And it's just a little darker from the burns on the skin. Normally have burns, so it's a little darker. And he goes, I want to see if this would actually not hurt you. And that's the best test, because if I hit you in the chest plate, it'll probably knock the wind out of you. If I hit you in the gut, it'll probably just do nothing, because I've been hitting you in the gut and it's done nothing. She goes, but my face! Come on, dude! And he goes, fine. So he lets off a huge explosion for his biggest attack he's ever done and lands it in her gut. And she goes back a few inches and says, that was puny. And he asks, what is your defense stat? And she goes, oh, my defense stat while my armor is on is at 100, and my defense stat without my armor is at 30. And he goes, bruh. And now I'm going to skip to the end of middle school, which is going to be when they're 16. Because UA is going to be a college in this one. No, it's not 16, it's 14. High school in the US is 4 years. So high school is for 4 years, and so she's 14 currently, and she's level 12 because she's been going to underground fights with people who are pro fighters, and she asks if she can have a spar with them, and they say sure. And then they get their world rocked by a little kid, and they're like, the hell are you? And she goes, oh, can we spar every few days? And they're like, sure, as long as you don't post them on the internet. And she goes, that's fine with me. So she's been rocking the world of every boxer, martial artist in her town, and they're all scared of her. And then by the end of high school, she's known as the Shadow Flame of Reality, and she hasn't heard this nickname yet. And Bakugo goes across an article of this saying that there's a random girl running around his hometown, and she's been completely annihilating the martial artists and boxers of the area, and they've nicknamed her the Shadow Flame of Reality. And the newscaster that's posting this, the journalist that's posting this article, says, I'm a great big D&D fan, and I remember dying in the game to her and how annoying she is. And Bakugo's like, what? And Bakugo goes, wait, are they talking about Izumi? So he walks over to Izumi's house and says, have you seen the news? And she goes, no. And he pulls it up on his phone and says, you're famous. And she goes, huh, I've already been famous ever since I was 4 and started my monk fighter on D&D. And he goes, what do you mean? She goes, oh yeah, I've completed multiple world championships in D&D because I've built a monk fighter around the class I'm currently using in real life. And he goes, so you took the game into reality? And she goes, kind of. I took reality into the game. And he goes, what do you mean, reality into the game? And she goes, every time I play D&D, it's with a monk fighter. And I had a system before I was into D&D, and I now play D&D religiously because of my system. And he goes, oh, okay. So what you're saying is that you're overpowered. And she goes, yeah. You ready for UA? And he goes, no. Oh, come on. You gotta get ready. And he goes, fine. Can you help me train? And she goes, yeah, that'll be fun. But I'll be right back. I gotta do some stuff. So they start training, and it's a few months before UA starts. And Mitsuki, Bakugo's mother, gives him a plane ticket. And Inko, Izumi's mother, gives her a plane ticket and says it's time for you guys to go and chase your dreams. And they say thank you to their parents, and they go to the airport. And they travel to Japan, and the person to greet them, because they're transfer students into UA, very powerful transfer students, is All Might. And he says that I'm going to be your hero instructor. And Izumi, not knowing who he is in this timeline, because she's not depressed from the being quirkless, and Bakugo being somewhat of a hero nerd, and Izumi pulling that card on him, saying, "You're a hero nerd," because Izumi has a Hinata, has a Hinata from the fanfic personality. Legacy fanfic personality. So he goes, "I'm not a nerd. I'm a fanboy, okay?" He goes, "Yeah, like you're a fanboy of the rom-coms that you read." And he goes, "Shut up! That's supposed to be a secret." And she goes, "Some secret? You sent a giant bin of them here." And he goes, "Yeah, kind of can't leave them at home if I want to read them." And she goes, "Just think, what if the box breaks and people see what's inside the box?" And he pales and like, "Crap, let's go." And he hops in the limousine that All Might brought, and All Might gets in and ushers Izumi into the limousine and says, "I am going to be your hero teacher." And they say, "You've already said that." He goes, "Okay, but the pro hero Eraserhead is going to be your homeroom teacher." And they go, "Ooh." And Izumi goes, "Oh, I know him. I like him. He's my favorite hero." And All Might, being somewhat of a cocky guy, thinks that everybody thinks he's the best hero. And he goes, "What about me?" And she goes, "I forgot who you were. Who are you again?" And Bakugo, laughing a little because he sees his idol look down in a little bit of shame, says, "Don't worry. She's beaten multiple heroes in a fistfight, and she didn't even know they were heroes until after they were beaten." And they're like, "What the hell? Why did you beat up a hero?" And she goes, "Hey, they attacked me first." And he goes, "Yeah, after you beat up a instructor at either a dojo or a boxer at a boxing ring." And she goes, "Hey, they attacked me first too." And he goes, "I know, but they didn't know that. They just saw someone broken and bloody on the ground and not a scratch on you." And All Might, hearing this, goes, "What do you mean, not a scratch on her?" And she goes, "Yeah, I have a quirk that's really powerful if used correctly, and I've probably been using it since I was... No, let me rephrase that. I have been using it since I was 4, and I'm currently addicted to D&D. And he goes, "Oh, that board game." And she goes, "Yes, but I am the global champion, and everybody hates me because I am really good." And he goes, I know the name of the character." And she goes, "It's my hero name that I've sent in to be processed by Midnight, my favorite female hero." Because, come on, who doesn't like some torture? And All Might pales at this, thinking, "Oh god, is she going to turn out like that one lady from the Naruto anime?" I love eating anime. I'm sorry. So, they get to UA after like 10 minutes of silence after she says that's my favorite female and who doesn't love torture. And they get there, and Izumi pulls out a book and starts reading after All Might introduces them to Aizawa. I'm making dinner, that's why you hear some stuff in the background. And Aizawa says, "Who are these problem children?" All Might says, "These are the transferees that are really powerful." And Izumi says, "I'm one of your greatest fans. I'm also really hated by most heroes." And Aizawa goes, "Cool." She goes like, "Can I get your autograph?" And All Might, not hearing that from her or Bakugo, goes, "Shh, he goes, sure, you can have my autograph. Where you want it? And she pulls out a sleeping bag. On here. And Aizawa, seeing the sleeping bag, is like, you're my favorite. She goes, I have followed your exploits. I know you. And he looks at her a little creeped out and goes, okay. How many villains have I stopped? And she says the exact number. I don't know how many villains he stopped because I'm not that big of a my hero nerd to look for the amount of villains that people suspect that he stopped. And he goes, well, damn. And she goes into detail. You've also killed 3 people and you've saved countless more lives than you've taken or stopped from being villains. And he goes, what are you? And she goes, I am Shadowfire, and I am here to wreck and rue the day that people started doing villainy. Or rue, whatever you want to call it. And he goes, wait, you are her? And she goes, yeah, I'm Shadowfire. And I'll be right back. Aizawa says, okay, your rooms are on the 2nd floor. Bakugo is the 3rd room down, and the 4th room down is yours, Izumi. And they go, yes, sir. And they go to their rooms, and Aizawa, while they're walking away, says, wait, Bakugo, the 3rd book on the 4th shelf is a good book. And Bakugo pales at this, going, you went through my stuff? And he goes, no. I just looked in your room to make sure there's no contraband. And Aizawa says, oh, wait, Izumi, the computer is all set up, by the way. And it has things to boost the speed and internet connection. Compliments of power loader. And she goes, ooh, okay. And I will pause again here because I'm gonna eat dinner. So we skip to the middle of the night, and Izumi is currently on the computer, just playing a few games of playing a little bit of D&D, and all of a sudden she sees this random person join, and this person apparently recognized her and said, hey, go to sleep. And she typed back saying, what? And this person said, I'm your mother, go to sleep. And Izumi looked at the name a little closer and saw that it was her mother's username, and was like, oh crap. And promptly turned off the computer and texted her mother, sorry. So we skip to the next day when Aizawa walks in and says, okay, problem children, we have 2 transfer students from America, and they have had a challenge, and I say that you're all gonna lose, so good luck. And they go, what? And they 2 new students walk in, Bakugo and Izumi, and Ochako sees Bakugo and starts blushing, and Todoroki sees Izumi and starts blushing. Definitely not going to be the ships, but I'm trying to get better at the love drama. So Izumi says her quirk is called Player, and says that she can't explain what her quirk does because it's too complicated. And then points to Bakugo and says his is Explosion, and he's an idiot. And Bakugo yells like, what the hell you say? She goes, exactly, you're an idiot. I'm not a freaking idiot. Want to go right now? And she goes, you're too weak. He goes, just because you have 100 goddamn defense does not mean I'm weak. She goes, yeah, it does. And they're like, wait, what? And Aizawa gets up in caterpillar mode and says, shut up. You're going out to the training field. Go. And they say, yes, sir. And they walk out of the area and go into the changing room. And Izumi sees the hole in the wall and asks, does anybody have a quirk to fix that? And she points to the hole in the wall, and Momo says, I do. And she goes up and plugs the hole in the wall. And on the other side, with the boys, Bakugo is currently walking in and sees Mineta crouching at a hole in the wall, and he asks Mineta, what is he doing? And Mineta says, I want to see Izumi. He's boobs. And Bakugo hears this and flips out and picks Mineta up by the head and starts popping explosions in the hand that he picked him up in. And says, you want to say that again, great boy? And Mineta, I'm not scared of you. And he goes, really? And Bakugo, with his full strength, takes Mineta and throws him like a baseball through the entrance of the changing room as hard as he can. And Mineta slams into the wall and passes out. Or gets knocked out, if you want to get more technical. And everybody's walking in at that point and sees Mineta slam against the wall and run in, wondering who did that. And they see Bakugo standing and being like, damn, great. So it's now the All Might is now currently at the training field and says, okay, everybody, it's time for you to do the ball throw tests again. And they go, what? And he goes, yes, it's time for that because we have 2 new students and we need to find where their capabilities are at compared to the rest of the class. So he throws it to Izumi, and Izumi says, I can't do anything yet. Can someone punch me or hit me super freaking hard? And everybody goes, I think the strongest person here is All Might. And Izumi says, All Might, hit me at 100%. And All Might looks at her and goes, no! And she goes, I could take it. And he goes, no, I will not hit you at 100%. And Baka goes, if you don't hit her at 100%, you're not going to be able to do anything to her. And he goes, what? No, I'm not going to hit you at 100. And she goes, do it. He goes, no. And after like 5 minutes and then going yes and no, she goes, no. And he goes, yes. And he's like, damn it. So he punches her at 100%. And she gets up and brushes it off. And she walks up into the circle and chucks the ball. And she gets roughly 10,000 meters. And she's like, how much is that in feet? And he goes, oh, I don't know feet to meter ratios. And Baku goes, that's a lot. She goes, oh, okay, I understand that. So Momo pulls out a calculator and starts to try figuring it out. And Bakugo goes next. And Bakugo gets close to 7,456 meters. And he's like, damn it, I'm still not as long as you. And she goes, yeah, I know, duh. He goes, you stupid ability. And Izumi goes, no, it's not a stupid ability, it's a really smart ability. The longer I fight, the harder I hit, and the more energy I have. Hi, Jack. Jack's my fluffy cat. By the way, tomorrow is the day I'm going to be doing the push-ups. And do 76 push-ups. Oh, they're not going to be good push-ups yet because you guys are going to have to keep track of them because I'm not going to know how many I'm doing, how many I need to do because I'm not going back through my videos. I friggin' hate the sound of my own voice. So you guys are going to have to keep me honest. Oops. Turn down my brightness. But anyways, so Bakugo starts yelling at Izumi. Izumi starts yelling at Bakugo, and all of a sudden they start throwing punches at each other, and but Bakugo gets knocked the hell out. After Bakugo hits her with max explosions a few times, he gets knocked the hell out, and Izumi's like, huh, that's what you get. And Ochako is fuming that she has not gotten any attention from Bakugo, but she also knows that he hasn't noticed her because she hasn't done anything for him to notice. So she's gonna try to impress him with her skills, and when he wakes up, it's finally her turn, so she throws the ball and she gets infinite, and he goes, "Damn extra!" And she's like, "Oh, nickname." And then the next person goes up and he calls them an extra. He's like, "Damn it, it's not a nickname." And she gets a little sad because he's not singling her out yet. So on the other test, she tries harder than she did when the school first started. And Bakugo and Izumi are the top of the class. The only one that Bakugo and Izumi were not the top of the class in were speed and ball throw. Because Ida is still the king of speed in the class, for right now at least. And the ball throw is Ochako's territory. So it's now the afternoon after lunch, and they say, everybody go get changed into your hero costume and meet All Might out on the meet All Might out in training ground beta. So they go to the changing room, and Izumi just walks out in her normal PE clothes. And like, "Where's your hero costume?" And she goes like, I have it with me." And when they get out there, they see what you see in the picture, somewhat. The only thing she does not have is the claws, but everything else is what she has. And Bakugo, who's seen this before, is like, "God damn it. Your damn skills again." She goes, "Damn right. I'm going to use my skills to make me a better hero." And they're like, "What do you mean skills?" And she goes, "My quirk gives me items, but I have to earn the items. And these are items that my quirk has given me." They go, "What?" And she goes, "It's too hard to explain. I'm just going to give up." And I go, "Okay." And by this time, Kaminari, who saw Izumi change into her hero costume, is like, "Do you have a system?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Cool." So it's the heroes versus villains, and we skip to the last round, which is Izumi, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Uraraka. So it's Uraraka, Todoroki as the heroes, and the villains are Izumi and Bakugo. So Izumi uses some of her skills as the monk fighter to basically steady herself. So she can't get knocked down by Uraraka. She can't be lifted up by Uraraka. Sorry, she can't be lifted up by Uraraka, and she's really hard to burn with Todoroki's fires, and she's really hard to freeze with Todoroki's fires. Because when you have a skill that makes you the weight of a black hole, it's kind of hard for you to go to zero gravity. she doesn't float off the earth floats off of her. Just kidding. But that would be freaking hilarious. So she's centered. Bakugo's like, okay, who do you want to fight first? And she goes, I don't like that Uraraka girl. And he goes, why? And she goes, I don't know. I just feel strange near her. He goes, okay. So you fight her, I'll fight the icy hot guy. And she goes, Todoroki, you mean? Yeah. And Todoroki, hearing that, she remembered his name, is like, oh. So Momo still has a crush on Todoroki. Ida has a crush on Uraraka. Uraraka has a crush on Bakugo. Bakugo has a crush on Izumi. Izumi doesn't know her feelings, and Todoroki has a crush on Izumi. So this is a very weird love pentagon. So wouldn't it be an odd shape? Yeah, it would be an odd shape. Anyway, back on topic. Izumi is walking down, and all of a sudden she gets hit by a giant column of fire. And Todoroki, noticing that he just hit Izumi, is like, oh crap, I can't do that again. And then he sees Izumi walking out of the fire unscathed, and he's like, oh, never mind, I gotta defeat her to show my strength. So he goes full force with fire, and then is like, okay, she's probably boiling at this point. Then he goes full force with ice to cool her down, and then fire, and then ice, and then fire, and then ice. But nothing is working on her. And then he calms down just slightly, just enough to have Uraraka sneak up behind her to float her so he can push her out of the way so they can get to the bomb. And Uraraka touches her back, and she flips Uraraka over her. And Uraraka's quirk takes effect on the armor. Not her, the armor. Even though Uraraka thought that she just touched skin. So Izumi's armor is a lot lighter, and she's like, oh, you just messed up. And Uraraka was like, what do you mean? She goes, you just made my armor a lot lighter. So she disappears from sight. They're like, what the hell just happened? And Bakugo's like, what's happening? And all of a sudden he just hears screams from down the hall. And then he hears, villain team has won. And Bakugo walks out of the room and says, what the hell happened? And Izumi, who's still not used to the speed that she's running at, accidentally runs into Bakugo and puts them in a very precarious situation. Izumi's face first into Bakugo's face and kissing him. In a very precarious situation because of her speed. And all of a sudden, Uraraka wakes up and sees this and gets super pissed. And then Todoroki wakes up and barely woke up and saw this and started becoming sad. Because he's not over his daddy issues yet. But he's willing to use his fire for impressing somebody. So he can get what he wants. Just like Endeavor. But Izumi immediately went tomato and ran away as fast as possible. And by the time she got out of the building, she was calmed down, just slightly calmed down. So she was just blushing. And then Uraraka is like, that bitch. I'm going to kill her. And then release her quirk because it still has effect on Izumi. And Izumi's armor slows her down again because it's really heavy. And she's at a manageable speed. And she finally starts to run because she was pretty much walking. Or jogging, actually. And she is running to the dorms, and she slams her door shut. And Aizawa, hearing that there's somebody back, walks over to the only door that's shut and knocks on the door. And Izumi says, "Go away, I don't want to talk to anybody," in a very alerted voice. And he goes, "What happened?" And she goes, "Nothing. Training's over. So I just headed back faster than everybody else." And by the way, training was over because they were the last ones to go. Bakugo started to blush a little after he kissed Izumi and noticed that they were kissing. Then got flustered when she went tomato because he saw that and was like, "Oh God, this is one of my stories, isn't it?" And so she ran away, and he's like, "Yep, it's definitely one of my stories," and started to laugh really hard. And so he walked to his room and basically uncovered his stash of rom-coms and looked through them to see which one best fit this scenario, and found one, and then walked to Izumi's door, knocked on it, and the little mail slot that everybody has on their door that is soundproof when it's shut. He slid the book through and then walked away. And Izumi, hearing a thud from the mail slot, looks over and sees a rom-com, and she goes, "God damn it, Bakugo!" as loud as possible. But then she opens the rom-com and starts to read and sees pretty much the exact scene that happened earlier that day, and gets flustered again thinking about it, and goes, "Oh God." And she starts to understand her feelings slightly, not completely. And Mina, who saw the face, was wondering what her feelings were. And so Mina, the next day, walks up to Izumi and says, "Who do you like in this class?" And Izumi goes, "The only one who I know in this class is Bakugo." And Mina says, "Oh, right, you just came here yesterday. I am Mina Ashido." And she shakes her hand and they say hi, and they get to know each other a little. And Mina says, "What do you feel around Bakugo?" And Izumi describes the feelings that she has around Bakugo, but that she only really noticed yesterday. And Mina starts to laugh and says, "You're too innocent." And Izumi says, "What do you mean?" And Mina says, "I'll let him tell you." And she points straight over to Bakugo, who's currently reading a rom-com and laughing his ass off at the same time. And so at lunch, Izumi walks to the roof and is still thinking about what happened the last day. And Bakugo, who saw her leave, walked up to the roof and said, "I know you don't want to hear this, but I've had a crush on you since you're little." She goes, "I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to talk about it." And he goes, I know. But you need to hear this." And he explains his feelings and when he first fell for her and why. And she goes, "That's the dumbest reason why." And he goes, I know. "Falling in love with your punching bag is a really dumb reason, isn't it?" She goes, "The hell? I wasn't your punching bag. You were my punching bag." And he goes, "No. I was your flesh bag that you beat." And she goes, "True. I did leave bruises." And he goes, yeah, and you were my punching bag because there was no damage one left when I was done. She goes, true. And so they start talking about the good old days when they were still little children and they didn't have these feelings about each other. So then they start talking about what would their parents say if they found out, and Bakugo said, the old hag would probably laugh at me. And Izumi says, you still call her old hag? Seriously? He goes, what? It's the best nickname for her. And she goes, I know, but still. The old hag? He goes, yeah. Duh. So later that day, Bakugo visits Izumi in her room and they start playing on her computer. And then later that night, Bakugo's too tired to walk to his room, so he just passes out in the chair. Izumi, seeing this, picks him up, puts him in the bed, and him being asleep and dreaming, grabs her and pulls her into a hug, and she's like, oh god damn it. And he starts saying soothing words and comforting words to her in his sleep, and then says romantic words. And her being a slight pervert, yes, she's a slight pervert, she gets a nosebleed thinking of what they would do. And then she passes out from blood loss. Later that morning, Bakugo wakes up and Izumi's cuddling with him. And he is like, what happened last night? And he sees that the camera on the computer was on. And he goes, oh god, what just happened? So he looked at the what the camera captured and was like, oh, okay. So nothing happened. Good. After he got up and secured Izumi to the bed, because if she fell off, the floor would break. So later, Izumi woke up and Katsuki was gone, and she's like, where'd he go? And she walked out of her room in her PJs, which when she's in casual clothes, she looks like this. By the way. When she's in PJs, she looks like this. So, without the All Might colors, it's just one plain color of blue. So it's now like 7 in the morning, and the sun just came up, and she's starting to get hungry, and she walks out of her room and sees Bakugo walking to his room, and she yells, Bakugo, what happened last night? And he goes, nothing, and starts walking faster. And she goes, don't you walk away from me. And she says his full name, Bakugo Katsuki, and he freezes and goes, yes, in the scared tone, because she used his mother's tone. And she says, what happened last night? And he goes, absolutely nothing, I swear. And she goes, what happened? He goes, absolutely nothing, just look at the recording. And she's like, what recording? And he goes, you left a recording light on. She goes, what? She looks back and she sees that her computer has been full with 24 hours of recorded video footage. But can't find it in the logs. And she walks over to Bakugo and says, can you please take me to the footage? And he goes, sure. Click, click. Why is it not here? And so she's like, I think I know who has it. So she walks out of the dorm and walks straight over to the support course and walks straight in and says, "Power loader, I need your help with my computer." And he goes, "Oh, what's wrong with it?" And she goes, "A file is missing on my computer. And it's 24 hours of video footage." And he pales, being like, "Oh, that shouldn't have been there." And she goes, "May I look through your computer to see if it's there?" And he goes, No. And she starts cracking her knuckles and going, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yes, you can go. You can look." So she looks through his computer and finds the 24-hour video footage, and then sees that he's trimming it down to the 5 minutes of the romantic stuff, and is, is cutting it and pasting it and turning it into a very naughty video. And she's like, "Power loader, what happens if I told Nezu about this?" And he goes, Absolutely nothing, because Nezu already knows. Just, okay. So she deletes it and gets rid of the trimmings and deletes the entire video and program so it doesn't come off her computer anymore. And says, "If I see you do this again, this computer that I'm standing at right now is dust." And since she's super powerful and more powerful than Power Loader, he goes, "Okay." And he turns around and walks away. And she says, "Good. Now you want to get some breakfast?" And Katsuki goes, "Sure. What do you want to eat?" Izumi goes, "Cinnamon rolls or bacon donuts?" And Bakugo goes, "I don't think they have bacon donuts here. Maybe cinnamon rolls." So they go to a breakfast place, and I'm going to end it there. See you guys in the next video.